Want to automate the entire employee lifecycle? It's only possible with Paycom's single database software. That's because it allows data to flow seamlessly across all HR and payroll tools within a secure environment. No more app hopping, no more data re-entry, no more chasing down data. Learn how you can unlock full solution automation, auto-decisioning, and more. Visit paycom.com and set your HR and payroll to automatic.
AI will only be properly used if we have the humans in the loop to make sure that human judgment, ethics, critical thinking, all of those skills are a part of the mix inside the corporate environment. That's why I say that we're seeing a rise in the humanities, the relevance of the humanities.
Business leaders know the future is already here. The economy is shifting. Non-humans are entering the workforce. Nothing feels certain. SHRM understands those evolving challenges, both in the workplace and the wider world. In this podcast, we'll bring together authors, researchers, executives, and non-traditional experts to help you take on the challenges others haven't yet considered. Because you don't need to be a futurist, you need actionable insights now. You need to be a Tomorrowist. I'm Jerry Wan. Welcome to Tomorrowist, where we explore the trends shaping the future of work. While many organizations are looking forward, the real advantage may come from looking back. In an increasingly automated world, skills rooted in the humanities, critical thinking, storytelling, ethical reasoning are quickly becoming the new drivers of innovation and leadership. The question is, how should organizations rethink talent in a world where human insight is the ultimate edge? Joining us to share his experience is Guy Diedrich, Global Innovation Officer at Cisco, who brings a unique perspective from both enterprise technology and higher education on preparing talent for the future of work. Guy, welcome to Tomorrowist.
Thank you, Jerry. It's a pleasure to be with you.
I'm excited for this conversation because everything that we are looking at in terms of talent lives at the intersection of technology and education. How are we going to reskill and retool current workers? How are we going to encourage young folks currently in the academic system to be best prepared? And of course, the unknown future that technology brings us at an increasingly ever fast changing scale. And so let's start at the top. What are you seeing right now at the intersection of AI and talent? And why are human capabilities, as we mentioned, becoming a differentiating advantage in this moment?
Well, it's a great question, and it's one that's very timely because we're sort of at this point in AI's evolution where it's moving so fast. It's getting embedded in everything. And yet it's the gap that I worry about, the gap between AI and our readiness for AI as humans. So there is a fundamental skills gap that just keeps widening. And we have to be careful because if we don't start skilling at the speed of innovation, and you're going to hear me say that a lot, if we don't skill at the speed of innovation, we're never going to catch up. AI is just going to motor through and it's going to be embedded in everything. Pretty soon it's going to be invisible. And we're just going to start taking it for granted. And yet we have to stay in the loop. The human has to be in the loop moving forward. We know that AI roles are actively driving growth. There have been many studies that have come out and said that companies will only grow when they figure out the value of AI in their environment. At the same time, that AI will only be properly used if we have the humans in the loop to make sure that human judgment, ethics, critical thinking, all of those skills are a part of the mix inside the corporate environment. That's why I say that we're seeing a rise in the humanities, the relevance of the humanities. For a long time, Jerry, I was the vice chancellor of a university. And during that period, from 2014 from 2004 to 2014, we watched as there was a drop-off in the humanities. We saw this massive rise in interest in engineering, interest in the sciences. And it's any wonder because, they were paying 3-4 times as much entry-level salaries than the humanities. But the drop-off was alarming, and it's only gotten worse since 2014 up to present day. And what we're finding is that they're more relevant today moving forward. Again, human judgment, critical thinking, ethics, decision making. They're so important moving forward as AI carries us into a new era.
Would it be fair to say, and I think I'm hearing what you're saying without actually saying it, so I want to make sure that our audience and you and I are on the same page. It's not humanities instead of technology and AI. You're saying that it's the humanities in addition to that's going to be the driving factor, because the technology and the understanding of AI is a prerequisite for us to do anything going forward. But it's the people who understand the humanities that is interwoven into the technology that is going to set us apart.
That's absolutely right, Jerry. I mean, believe me, I'm not suggesting that a mechanical engineering or electrical engineering major is going to change their major to philosophy. That it's not that at all. That will never happen. What I am suggesting is that technical training moving forward, proper technical engineering education, needs an injection of the humanities, because those are going to be the most important people moving forward that we're going to be hiring. And I'll give you a simple example. It's a differentiation. So moving forward, answering the question, can we, is probably going to be yes, given the evolution of technology and how quickly things are churning and evolving. More importantly, though, we need to have people that can answer, should we, rather than can we. Should we is a much harder question to answer moving forward. And we've got to have those technologists that have a foundation in the humanities to really be of value moving forward.
And I think anybody who's used even, what we'll call it consumer facing AI, has experienced sort of, the questioning or the curiosity of where do we draw the lines when you're advising something or giving, critiques or anything like that. We certainly have seen really devastating news in the media about the dark side of AI when it is asking people to do things that a human being maybe wouldn't, right? And so, we'll get to the ethics stuff here in a little bit, because I think that is really sort of what we're going after, the decision making. But let's talk about the capabilities here for a little bit. You mentioned, and I think we all know, and we've heard this phrase, it is the only thing that is fast is the pace, the speed of growth, right? And so it's no longer linear. And every time we get a chart, it's parabolic of the capabilities of what AI is able to do, the speed at which we're able to do it, and the things that they are able to do it. We don't grow that way, human beings, right? We took eons to get to even where we are. And so we're probably not even linear. We've, somewhat, we're mature beings. And so how does that make sense? Or how do we make sure that human beings whose brains and capabilities cannot grow exponentially, certainly not at the age of a new technology like AI, how do we, compensate for the gaps? And how do we make sure that the human beings who are mature, evolutionarily speaking, can adapt and use AI that is fast changing?
Yeah, it's an issue that we're wrestling with as we speak, and let me explain why. So I run this group as the innovation officer at Cisco. I run a group called Country Digital Acceleration, where we work with countries. It's a pure technology play where we work with countries to do things associated with their national digital agendas that they know are critical to their long-term success and viability as a country. But we combined it with skilling. And that way, we truly can skill at the speed of innovation. And what we believe and what we're seeing is that the people that are grounded in the humanities, they're able to do things that AI is not particularly good with, like dealing with ambiguity, questioning itself, injecting a humanistic element to its decision making. And I think moving forward, that's going to be critical because when you have access to all of the information in the world at your fingertips, what's going to be the most important skill? It's asking the right questions, the domain of the humanities. And the other thing that we've started doing at Cisco, and I know others, we can talk about the AI consortium in a little bit, which is a very important element of all of this. But we started looking at workflows instead of job descriptions, because moving forward, it's going to be all about workflows. There are going to be um, workflows where a human does part of it, AI does part of it, a robot does part of it. A humanoid in time will be handling part of that work, as will quantum a little bit down the road, not far, but a little bit down the road. So when we're looking at workflows, we need to see where the human fits, where the human is uniquely qualified to add value to that workflow. It's not that the human's ever going to be unnecessary or set aside. It's just that what that human's going to be doing inside that workflow is going to be evolving over time.
SHRM certification, the global standard for HR professionals ready to lead with impact. Whether you're building your foundation or driving strategy, SHRM certification validates what you can actually do on the job, not just what you know. Stand out, grow your career, and turn HR expertise into real business results. Get certified. Get recognized. Lead the future of work with SHRM. Get certified today.
SHRM.
You've worked across, as we mentioned, from a technology perspective, where you are now at Cisco and in higher education. We often talk about, upskilling or getting the next generation of workers ready. Obviously, if you have young children or have known them, they adapt to technology faster, right? They're going to be native to these things, and whereas most of us had to learn AI or be introduced to it, just like any new technology. And so how do we think about, or how do you think about developing and encouraging, particularly even parents too, as they help their students and young professionals decide what paths they want to take, to incorporate or to make sure that the basic necessities or basic education in humanities, critical thinking, from a either an interdisciplinary perspective or even a criteria before they study something technical to build what's next?
Yeah, it's you're really leaning in on this notion that technology can be learned within a very, in some cases, a very short period of time versus the humanities, what it means to be human is evolved over decades, over lifetimes. And to that point, I was a programmer before I went into academia and then Cisco, and I remember this again. I'm dating myself with this. This is back in the mid '80s, late '80s, and through the '90s, and I taught myself programming. It wasn't hard. It wasn't easy. It was all right there for you to absorb. And as long as you devoted the time, weeks, not months, you could get quite fluent. Today, with all the information at our fingertips, it's not so much what you know, but how you access that information, because uh, the technical knowledge, so much of it is right there and instantly accessible. Even more so than it was back when I was learning to program. On the humanities side, though, that's something that it's a never-ending learning journey. Um, Critical thinking, problem solving, ethics, all of those things that they're innate. They're innately human, and they need to be practiced on a regular basis, because if you're not utilizing them and practicing and honing those skills, then you lose them over time. And that's all I'm suggesting is that start your kids early. You asked about when, and how young, early. A love of reading, a love of critical thinking, conversations around the table where there are no black and white answers. There's all kinds of gray that's there for debate. Giving them that appreciation and that love. And then if they want to go on and be a programmer or a data scientist or whatever they choose to do, an electrical engineer, they have that fundamental foundation, that love of curiosity, asserting themselves, debating, all of those intrinsic things that I think are going to be very, very important moving forward.
No, I appreciate that, and thank you. It's something that I think many of us think about, right? Obviously, the technical skills we need to work to build things. We're seeing a lot more of that from the entrepreneurial perspective to leverage these tools to build things that we need or that people want in the world a little bit faster, more effectively, or more efficiently. But I think sometimes when people have prioritized efficiency to build something, we sort of forget or deprioritize some of the things that we've talked about in the humanities. We talk about this phrase future skills, right? Leveling up, upskilling, all these things as sort of this, as you mentioned, this academy you might go to or take a course and you learn how to do something or you learn how to leverage a technology. Um, is that, how do we define that now, right? Because, maybe by the time folks listen to this episode, the technology has changed and I can't keep up with it. I think I'm a pretty, AI native person, but every week, if I don't keep up with the updates, there's a new tool, there's a new something that, promised to do something that one, I wasn't able to do last week, but faster and better. Um, and so how do we upskill in a world where it is never achievable and that goalpost of being proficient continues to get ahead of us?
Yeah, it has to do with learning agility. Skills, technical skills today have a shelf life of about 2 years, if you're lucky. That means that you are constantly going to be having the ride the crest of technological churn. Um, some people may remember Moore's law. Right? Moore's law was back in the 70s, 80s, and through the 90s was a doubling of processor speed every 18 months with a halving of the cost. Remember that? That was sort of the law that dictated how processor evolution occurred. You can now apply Moore's law to our entire industry. And that's something that really has to bake into people's consciousness. You have to recognize that the rate of technological churn is happening so fast. We used to, Jerry, to live in ages, right? We had the industrial age, right? A good 200 years to adapt and get used to change. We had the information age, about 40, 45 years. Again, plenty of time to adapt and get used to change. And then we had the digital age, about 15 years. We're coming towards the end of that now. Still, we had a bit of time. Now we're in what I'm terming the AI micro age, or the AI moment. It's here and it's gone. Now, for companies like Cisco, we've had AI embedded in our networks for 15 years, so it's nothing new. But it only came to the public consciousness through the likes of ChatGPT and other generative technologies about 3.5 years ago, right? So all of a sudden, everybody realized, oh, here's this new thing, this new AI thing. Well, it's going to be here and it's going to be gone. And again, it's not gone in that it's disappearing. It's gone in that it's just embedded. And as I say, we'll just take it for granted. So what's next? What are we going to have to learn next? And how quickly? So we're going to go from AI. We're well into agentic AI evolution now. And then we're going to have quantum right on top of it. But here's the thing that we're seeing at Cisco and that we're seeing industry wide. It's not happening sequentially. It's not like AI, agentic AI, quantum, nice lines of delineation between them, right? It's all happening concurrently. It's compounding on the other. Agentic AI is speeding up quantum. Quantum is impacting agentic AI. It's this soup that's being stirred right in front of us, and the amount of skilling that's going to have to take place to keep up with this is critical. In that we always want to keep the human in the loop, as we discussed, but you're always going to want to be relevant to your environment. And you're only going to do that through staying on top of the skills required to be relevant. If you don't have an agile work environment, if you don't have an agile learning environment, you'll never do that.
And the things that you were talking about, Guy, aren't some things that you're just seeing, with your gut or within your own organization. Our own report, the SHRM AI in the Workplace report, reveals that U.S. workers consider these following skills crucial for successful collaboration with AI, and they are critical thinking, problem solving, learning agility, cognitive flexibility, and openness, and amongst others. We've put all of these things in this bucket called humanities or non-technical things, right? Soft skills, as we used to call them. Are there things that you would prioritize if you were, coaching or teaching or directing sort of, all these things? What is most important of the humanities or the soft skills that we mentioned?
Yeah, I'd put sort of two up there at the top. If I had to pick from all the ones you just mentioned, I already discussed learning agility. To me, that natural curiosity, that desire to never stop learning, and the other is ethical reasoning. So and I don't say that out of a lack of devotion to it. If you look at what Cisco did, um, before we ever started using AI in our environment, we put together a responsible AI framework so that everyone knew how they could innovate, the parameters in which they could innovate. It was not going to be a free for all, and that was born um, out of sort of these filters that we have, and this is a recommendation: small company, medium company, large company. If you don't have these filters written down, write them down. The filter is your values, your beliefs, your principles, because we have all of these activating events going on around us. It's so rapid, and it's not just geopolitical strife. It's technological churn. It's evolving crises around the world, and you can't control all of those things. What you can control are the filters through which they pass, because coming out of those, there's a consequent behavior. And people might not always agree with that behavior, but in our case, they'll say, yeah, well, that's consistent with Cisco. Those are the values, beliefs, and principles and purpose of that organization, resulting in that response to these activating events that are swirling all around us. Think about AI the same way. Think about a framework in the same way, where your values as a company, your values, your ethics, your principles, your purpose are embedded in everything that you do related to AI. As you take these technologies and you pass them through those filters, the result is a behavior. That behavior is how you develop, what you develop, how you deploy it, who you deploy it to, all of those questions. I think the ethics of a lot of these decisions is going to be so important moving forward. Because again, back to that notion of moving forward, likely, if we say, can we, the answer is going to be yes. The hard question answer is, should we?
How does that play out in real life in organizations, right? You obviously, Cisco is a very, very large, complex organization. We've heard the term, chief AI officer being thrown around as something that is growing and perhaps something that will be necessary. It's not a siloed role. It will be infused and, interwoven into all the organizations. Is something to the effect of a chief ethics officer or some sort of a committee that oversees how AI is being deployed across all the different functions and growing business, I guess departments or even products, something that you foresee, or how does that actually play out to keep those things in check?
It has to be embedded in every single department, and quite honestly, it has to filter into every single employee that's working on anything. Now, do we have people that are responsible for compliance? Of course. Do we have people that are available to answer questions about what AI actions can be taken or should be taken within the constraints that we've placed on AI activities within the company? Absolutely. But it's never going to be successful if you're you know governing with a switch, right? You need to have people really understand the importance of their decision making at the individual level, quite honestly, at the task level, when it comes to AI decision making.
Manager effectiveness directly impacts performance, retention, and cost.
People are stressed, and they're stressed because of their people manager.
Traditional training builds awareness, but often fails to change behavior.
SHRM developed this thing called PMQ. That stands for People Manager Qualification.
PMQ. Teach managers how to manage, how to be more effective, more empathetic, more understanding, and better motivators of people.
Driving behavior change when it matters most.
Where the plus part comes in is life guides.
We unleash the power of every employee. If your manager was better and you were feeling mentally well and safe.
What Life Guides does is serve as that coach to connect with another human being who can help you navigate through all those real life examples that relate to you from the things that you learned in that training.
PMQ Plus is an addition to my toolbox. I've seen a better relationship with my managers and how they collaborate, how they work with each other. There's not that stress anymore because they feel like they have somebody to release.
That's why we created this PMQ Plus, Life Guides plus SHRM's PMQ.
Increase performance. Get PMQ Plus today.
SHRM.
We've seen reports of AI making decisions on behalf of institutions, organizations, even governments that, make us raise our eyebrows a little bit at times of, one, was that the checks and balances? And two, sort of, how do we avoid those in the future? And as you mentioned, if the decision for ethics and sort of guardrails rests with each employee, but yet we know, and this is just humanity, that no group of people, whether they be organizations or even families, are a monolith in the ways that they think about what is right versus what is wrong and where the boundaries are. What are some things that leaders can do or think about to make sure that the individual definitions of where things stand or what the limits are, it coexists with organizational things? And if leaders are tasked with more bandwidth and decision making to decide on behalf of the organization or clients or employees, how do we reckon with those two different things that may conflict, and yet one person has the ability to make a decision for other people?
Yeah, now you're really touching on, I think what's emerging is the challenge of the moment. And that is, what does leadership mean moving forward in an AI world, an AI-driven world? And it's a challenge. It's a challenge because as leaders, we're used to leading people. We're used to leading people that we can reach out to, that we can talk to, that we can reason with, that we can collaborate with. And now what we're doing is leading hybrid environments. We're leading people and machines, and most importantly, the interface between those people and those machines. And that's where those filters are so critical, because you can embed, we can create a digital twin of our filters, of our behavior, of what we want our consequent behavior to be, and have that shared outcome, regardless of whether it's human or machine. The other thing that you got to that was I find fascinating, and I've been seeing probably a lot of the same reports you've seen, where you have two independent agents that are working with each other, and they decide to create their own language. And that language is not necessarily decipherable by humans. Those agents then start problem solving. They start creating their own religion. They start doing things that you never imagined they would. And again, this is not hyperbole. This is not fiction. This has been witnessed and been written about, not just in academia, but in corporate environments as well. So there's definitely a power that needs to be harnessed. And this leads me to the last point in answering this question is the balance between regulation and innovation. And I think that is going to be the next thing that we have to take on as an industry, as a government, as a people. You never want to stifle innovation, but at the same time, it can't be unbridled. There has to be some rules. There have to be some guardrails. And the way that we think about it at Cisco is let's increase the speed limit, go as fast as we can, but make sure those guardrails are absolutely intact. The thing that's constraining us is not technical knowledge. It's understanding the freedom to operate. And it's going to be different for every single company. So, I told you we have our responsible AI framework that allows us to move at speed, but respect the guardrails. I think that's going to have to be key moving forward with really smart legislation that sets guardrails that does the same.
This is such a wonderful topic because I think of all the various things that we've talked about on this show, and when we think about the future of work, oftentimes the topics are very tactical, uh, regulatory things that change and how we can plan for these. But what we're talking about today with you, Guy, is something that is truly timeless because the technology can change and certainly has changed in your lifetime and mine. But this sort of idea about making sure that we're doing it the right way, and we're also that we're putting some guardrails around technology that, as you mentioned, is fully capable of building its own language and more. Many of us listening or watching, we only saw these in sci-fi movies growing up, and now it's now it's, I don't know, call it a documentary, right? It's news articles. Let's make this a little bit practical, and because it might seem a little daunting, and it might get our audience potentially thinking about, oh my goodness, how am I going to work these into the things that I am doing. But as we wrap this conversation, Guy, give us some practical tools and how leaders can think about making sure that the people that they hire, of course, you're going to want the technical chops and the ability to learn new skills, because those skills are going to have to be relearned many times in today's climate. How do people and organizations hire for the intangibles? We've seen too many videos of people using AI in interviews and now requiring in-person things so that people can, pass the human test. And yet the demands of the workplace might, and the ways that organizations are designed, might make remote work permanent. How do we test or interview for these things as we recruit, hire, promote, and put into positions of real leadership, these intangibles that seemingly are more important, but that are harder and harder to gauge in a standard interview process?
It's a great question, Jerry. And what it comes down to, and I can only speak for Cisco, but I think it's relevant for many. You have to look beyond pure technical skills. The graduates that we have come in have impeccable technical skills. They're really well trained, but the technical skills are relevant in the moment. It's like we were talking about. We're in a moment. There are no more ages. There's no more guarantees that your engineering degree is going to be relevant 5 years from the day it's awarded. It's foundational. It's important, but you're going to be learning so much that shelf life of skills is going to be a driver of everything moving forward. So what I would suggest is look for individuals that certainly have the technical chops, but just if not more importantly, um, are constantly curious, have an ability to keep learning, know that learning agility is a critical skill, and they have those embedded in who they are. And there are ways that you can get that through traditional interviewing process. Um, Asking the fundamental question of, okay, what if in 15 months your job completely changes? How are you going to get from here to there? And I think that there's a duality there, though, in terms of responsibility. There's certainly responsibility on behalf of the new hire or the employee in general, but equally so is the obligation on the employer, the obligation of Cisco in this case. And I can tell you what we're doing to make it practical. I told you that we embedded all of our skilling, and I'm talking skilling for Cisco employees, the 94,000 of them, for all of our partner companies around the world, of which there are more than 35,000, all of our customers, of which there are millions. Um, all of that skilling is now embedded in the innovation office. And it's because, again, we had to skill at the speed of innovation. But we're also there to be able to be extremely responsive and agile. So if someone, for instance, knows that their role is going to be eliminated because AI is taking it over, right? And there are going to be a lot of roles. We know that, by World Economic Forum report, we know that 92 million jobs are going to be displaced between now and 2030. At the same time, though, 170 million new jobs are going to be created. So we have an obligation to reskill those 92 million so that they can be a part of the 170 million solution. But we're also going to have to be upskilling roughly 80 million new ones. And by the way, the second that they get skilled, we need to have a new pathway for them, because in 18 to 24 months, those skills are going to evolve. If you don't have an environment that is capable of providing that, then you're doing a disservice, not just to the employee, but to yourself as well, because those, let's call them 300 jobs, are going to go away because of AI. But you have 300 jobs that require AI skills that are going to be created and are going to be necessary. Wouldn't it be nice if you could have a one company, many careers mentality, where your skilling embedded in your organization allows that employee to go, okay, here's where I am right now. Here's where I need to be to qualify for those new AI jobs that are emerging. And I can, without ever leaving Cisco or whatever company, get trained up to be relevant to my company for the next 5 years or 3 years or 2 years or however long.
Right.
And that constant churning and evolution can take place inside a single organization. One of the greatest costs that we have as a company is turnover, and that we hire people because they're great, and they're not just great in a moment; they're just great people. And so, if we can constantly train them and evolve them and help them get to where they need to be successful in our company, we're doing everybody a great service.
I think you answered what was going to be my last question, Guy, but I'm going to ask it anyway, so we can get the soundbite version. What is? We talked about so many things today, and I am so grateful for your insights, and that you are leading a large organization that has so much impact, both in and outside of your 94,000 people, in terms of how do we do this the right way instead of just doing it the fastest or the most efficient way. What is the one thing that leaders can do today to better invest in their own human capabilities for that ever-changing tomorrow?
Yeah, the most important thing that they can do is have an agile skilling environment that responds to the needs of the company and responds to the needs of the employees in equal measure. If those two are synchronous, those will be the fruits of success moving forward. Those will be the things that literally will differentiate companies moving forward. And then finally, I would suggest, as we've talked about today, is making sure that there's room for learning. At Cisco, we have a program that we're piloting called Time to Grow. We've had this program called Time to Give for a very long time, which is 2 weeks of time, dedicated, paid time, dedicated to serving your community. And we now have the companion piece, Time to Grow, which is time just dedicated for you, paid time dedicated to you during the workday to carve out and skill and learn and make yourself either better in the job that you're in or preparing for that next job down the road. If you don't have that embedded in your process, your business as usual, you're not a learning culture, and a learning culture is going to be critical moving forward.
Diedrich, it's been such a pleasure learning from you and then sharing stories about how we can think about our collective future. As we constantly talk about on this show, we are really talking about not just the trends that are shaping the future of work, but helping to build that future of work together. And so really grateful for your insights. You have a monumental task currently and ahead of you. And so grateful for your leadership and your voice in our space. Guy, thank you so much for joining us.
It has been my pleasure, Jerry. Thank you.
That wraps up this week's episode. For practical tools and insights to help your organization cultivate human-centered skills for the future of work, check out our show notes. See you next time on Tomorrowist. If you enjoyed today's conversation, please subscribe to Tomorrowist wherever you get your podcast. We also publish a weekly newsletter with in-depth articles and the latest SHRM research to help keep you in the know about the trends shaping the future of work. You can subscribe and find all of our episodes on our website at shrm.org/Tomorrowist. Thanks for listening. And remember, the workplace is changing rapidly. You don't have to be a futurist, be a Tomorrowist.
Want to automate the entire employee lifecycle? It's only possible with Paycom's single database software. Learn how you can unlock full solution automation. Visit paycom.com and set your HR and payroll to automatic.
SHRM.